So to have her here and to have had Rahul prior, and they're both now collaborating on another film, is to really look at the finest, people who are passionate about art and vision and living on their own terms in the most difficult circumstances. Guneet is a producer, and she's constantly shifting the boundaries of the business of cinema. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Guneet Monga on stage.
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
And again, before diving into Guneet's world and the making of her, again, I'll ask the console to show us a little sliver of the kind of worlds that she's helped create.
And the Oscar goes to?
I didn't really come from money, and I didn't have investments.
उन्हें लगता है ये तो पागल है, पता नहीं क्या क्या सोचती रहती है।
बहुत ही मट्ठर इंस्पेक्टर आई है।
दोनों क्या प्रोसिक्यूशन ये मानता है कि इस्लाम और लिबरलिज्म एक नहीं हो सकते, या फिर ज़हीर सिर्फ इसलिए अंदर है क्योंकि उसका नाम ज़हीर है?
जब लड़की लोग को अकल आती है तो सब उन्हें पगलैटी कहते हैं।
बहुत कुछ अभी बदलने के लिए बाकी है।
साला ये दुख का खत्म नहीं होता बे। Is she saying I'm a terrorist? What are you saying?
हमें बचपन से हड्डियां तोड़ने का बहुत शौक है।
कभी-कभी गलत ट्रेन भी सही जगह पहुंचा देती है।
सब रुक गया था, सब थमसा गया था। But yeah, dreams do come true.
बाप का, दादा का, भाई का, सबका बदला लेकर तेरा फैजल।
तेरे से सब बर्बाद हो गया।
You don't need a seat on the table. Create your own table and sit on it.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a surprise.
I should have done it when you were there, but I just, in the flow of it, invited you on stage before, celebrating both of you. So, Guneet, thank you so much. Both Guneet and Rahul are in the midst of films. Guneet is going to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning for a shoot. So it's really very special to have you here, Guneet.
I'm glad this worked out.
Yeah. Guneet, so, we were just looking at this amazing body of work. And, I don't know how many people know, like I said, the Genesis stories. So I would really like to start there. You're a 2-time Oscar winner, an amazing achievement for the whole country, and backing really unusual cinema. One documentary about periods, another about, 2 Tamil elephant caregivers, in an obscure village in Tamil Nadu. You take very unusual stories and you put it on the world map. That's amazing, But what's more amazing is that you lost your parents when you were very young, and you literally had no frameworks. And you started with borrowing money to become a producer, So first tell us about the family, and the making of you. Who helped you become this sort of woman of resilience,
Thank you for having me here. Yeah, I mean, I'm the only child of my parents, and I think my dad was a hustler.
Was a hustler?
Yeah, full-on hustler. And we were pretty much, living end-to-end, day to day. He did many, many businesses, and I would just be fascinated by his brain of, he was Jugaad 101, there's nothing that is not possible. If I would ever call him, these are little stories that are way back in my head, and I would ever call him and I'd be like, "Aap kahan ho?" And he'll be like, "Tere piche." That was his that was his constant answer to me. So I think he's the reason. He told me that there's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing that, we can't achieve. One of my favorite films is Life is Beautiful, and my life with him has largely been like that because there were so many things falling apart. But for me, there was nothing that was impossible because he chose and protected me from everything, and I've I've been very, very loved by both of them. Our extended family was very chaotic, was very, very toxic, was very hard. And I was born in GK2 in Delhi, and on a one very tough night, there were like 2 trucks of bullets, and we had to be taken out of our own house because of just property and joint family nonsense. and we actually overnight moved to outskirts of Delhi in Faridabad in a small colony called Chamwood Village in identical apartments, small 2-bedroom apartment. But we came from a very different place, a very huge house, main road GK2. And my parents just always thought that this is stopgap arrangement, and we were there for 8 years, from the age 12 to 20, and those were pretty much formative years for me. I have a friend here in the audience from Chamwood, which is very sweet. But I really formed my own because there was a colony, there were friends, there was, and then of course college happened in Delhi, and by the time, I think my only thing in my life was to buy a house for my parents, and I became a DJ, I was selling cheese on streets, I was salesperson, whatever it took. I was working throughout my college in various jobs, internships, Hindustan Times, journalism, photography, whatever it took, till I found an international film to be part of as an intern's intern, and then I slowly walked my way up and became, a production coordinator, production manager, line producer, to the person who's getting all the permissions, managing the production, so very managerial position. And in all of this, somewhere my parents were still really struggling to get a house, and that's all they wanted, that's all I wanted. Ek hi sapna tha, ghar banana hai. And by the age 22, we were able to buy a house. I was able to work that hard.
With money that you put together?
Yes, with money that in GK1, Pahadi Wala Gurdware ke samne, everything that they wanted. But by the time the house got made, they both passed. Within 6 months of each other. And then I just was so, disillusioned about any dreams of such, like what does it take, what is it for, and moved to Bombay, lock, stock, barrel, shared a room with 5 other girls, like shared mattresses, and 2-3 हज़ार रुपए rent के अंदर contribute करके producer बनना था. So it started from there.
That's an amazing story, Guneet. It's just really very, very moving story. From there to 2 Oscars, is a journey that we definitely want to explore. Just, when you were saying that, like you had this chutzpah and this get-go that, like you said, you were just doing anything because your goal was to get a house for your parents. I just wanted to bring home the texture of that childhood just a little bit more, if you could share with the audience. You have a lot of fans in our team, and they've done like superb research on you. So I know every little sort of detail of your life. So forgive me for wanting to put a spotlight on that. Apparently there was a night when you were saying when you were still living with your joint family, that, tell me if this is an apocryphal story, that you were afraid to go open the fridge of your own home, and your parents and you were huddled just to even open the fridge in your home. How does something like that happen, and is that a true story?
Yeah. So this was just, it's actually very hard to talk about it in Delhi, because it's just very weird. But yes, I was born in a very big house in GK2, main road. And there was a lot of property fights, between the family, grandparents, and it was not normal. I've grown up with a lot of Punjabi abuses and you know, a lot of toxicity to the point. But I think my mom's side gave a very big fridge. So even in that huge house, my parents and I were in one room, and we were pretty much confined to that one room. And to get out of that room to experience the whole house or anything, it was very hard. It used to be just flurry of abuses. It used to be just, you know, unwelcome atmosphere. So एक बहुत बड़ा fridge था, which was actually half freezer and half fridge. And our room did not have space to put it. So it was from our room, we go outside on the right, in the living room. And that for me, from my childhood, was war zone. You know, so if you have to go to the fridge, we used to time कि सुबह सबके उठने से पहले यूज़ कर लेते हैं और रात को यूज़ कर लेंगे. अगर दोपहर को, शाम को फ्रिज यूज़ करना है, तो मतलब it used to be an effort. It used to be like, you know, we'll be heard, we will be seen, you know, we will. So it was very hard. Yeah, sometimes I used to go and sometimes I used to get screamed at. If my mom used to go, she used to get screamed at. So we were just that, you know. And if we even told anything to dad at the end of the day, it used to create into a huge ruckus and a huge fight. So kitna bataye na? Kitna wahi cheez bar bar. You know, so it was hard. It was a very, very hard childhood at the home. And I think I grew up being very scared and very, you know, like, it was very easy to bully. And there's been a lot of therapy over the years that has allowed me to articulate all of this. But yeah, एक नशा होता है पैसे का और power का, which I've seen very closely. And also especially, I think, the property rates of GK2 and this mindset of, you know, wealth, जो है नहीं, but we're sitting on it, you know, so it's not, there's no cash flow, but you're just very rich, you know, so there's a certain fabric of people like that, you know, which was very interesting and very unfortunate, yeah.
No, thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's a very raw story to share, but I wanted to draw attention to that because, you know, I mean, I think it really further accentuates the journey you've made to be such a successful producer. And like I said, to put India on the global map, you know, to come from very sort of torn beginnings like this is really it's a very powerful story. And just, you know, we'll come to now what you're doing with the industry and all of that. But again, I wanted to share with the audience that then in this, you're heartbroken, you go to Bombay, you know, and then the first film that you ever produced was on borrowed money and it flopped, you know. How do you deal with something like that and how did you pull yourself out of that? How did you pay it back?
So I was 21 when...
And how did you even think of being a producer?
So I started working in international films in production in Delhi. There is a lot of international film work that comes here. And that actually allowed me to dream and to see. You know, I was always somebody who took on more responsibility. I liked taking more responsibility. So I was like, yes, let's do it, you know. So even if I didn't know, I very quickly became the most favorite intern or, you know, like all departments used to give me work. And I liked it. I liked taking on more than I could, you know, even handle and be able to deliver, put in that extra time. I was very, very curious and passionate. And I remember one of my first directors I worked with was Pan Nanil, and Dilip Shankar was our line producer. And I was in that office, and everybody, there was like this buzz that there's this new intern, everybody's very happy we have a new intern. And they all like assumed I know computer very well, because you know what was my job? To convert a directory, which had every phone number written of entire Bombay film industry, into an Excel sheet. So I used to be always doing tuck, tuck, tuck on the computer.
So you were the computer whiz.
In their mind.
In their perception.
So then they came to me and they said, Guneet, tum kya kisi aur ke baal, kisi aur ke chehre pe? This was Pan Anil's first job to me. Kisi aur ke baal, kisi aur ke chehre, kuch aise kar paoge? Huh? And I looked at him and I said, sir, ek baar sikha doge to baki sare kar lungi. You know, so he's like, he didn't understand. Because I was, you know, given very, like all departments gave me work. Ki ye maine, there was a bookshelf bigger than this screen of books that they were, because we were doing a period film, they had marked books with post-its and they wanted me to, you know, document the whole, like digitize the whole thing. And they thought that it'll take me forever. I finished it in a week and they were like, books. everything digitized and put it into, you know, folders. So there was an intern's job. So I started like that as a photocopy girl, you know,
And then you
one
borrowed
of my
money.
first, I'll come there, one of my first actor was Milind Suman in that film. So it all adds up, you know, like from taking chai and coffee and be like, so picking up Anurag Kashyap at the airport. He wrote the dialogues of that film. So, you know, so those were my first intern jobs. And then when, by the time I was 21, I'd done this for 3-4 years and understood production, execution. I'd also become like an EA to producers, international producers over years. I was end to end doing the whole thing. One of my best friend's my aunt Anurita Sehgal allowed me to be her assistant, and I just grew in that space. I was like, production to aa gaya. Now I have to figure out how to learn what script to produce and how to say yes to a script, how to give feedback. वो सब नहीं पता था. So my neighbor in Delhi, we had come back to Kailash Colony after Surajkund on rent, and my neighbor there said, तुमने mass communication पढ़ा है? I studied mass communication, and we will. I want you to open. I want to start a business that you can run, कि you know, make cute videos of little kids, and we'll sell it to their parents. You know, like a studio, like newborn baby shoots. So I just looked at him and I was like, इसमें आप कितने पैसे डालना चाहते हो? So that was my first question. And he said, 50 lakhs. I said, very good. ये पैसे आप मुझे दे दो. ये आइडिया बहुत बेकार है. ये तो मैं नहीं कर सकती हूँ. Like, I didn't like studying to shoot baby videos. I'll go to Bombay and make a film. So I sold him a dream. I've never been to Bombay.
That's insane.
And he agreed. He's like, ठीक है.
Is the neighbor here today?
Kamlesh Agarwal, I should have. Mr. Kamlesh Agarwal, I didn't know we were going to talk about him. I would have invited him. But he now lives in Narayana, I think. And I adore him, and he's amazing. We've been in touch. So he gave the first 50 lakhs, and he's like, ठीक है, Bombay चले जाओ. I went to Bombay, and what was my game? Who did I know in Bombay? Because when I was in Delhi, I used to hire a lot of lights from Bombay equipment. So I knew light vendors, you know. I knew all the light boys.
You're a scamster, Guneet.
Yeah. So that was my, like, I didn't know anybody else. I knew a couple of actors that I had helped audition and bring Vinay Pathak, a couple of other actors who were part of international scene. But outside of that, I just really knew just vendors. You know, for a lot of big equipment that was not in Delhi, specialized equipment, we used to bring from Bombay. So I knew those massive camera and grip guys. And I went to them and I was like, मुझे अब किसी AD से मिलवा दो, तो somebody who's an assistant director, then maybe that assistant director can introduce me to a director. So they started introducing me to ADs, and all the ADs I met in food court in Infinity Mall, and I used to meet everybody and say, मेरे पास 50 लाख रुपए है, किसी के पास कहानी है? So कोई भी कहानी दे दो, मुझे 50 लाख रुपए है मेरे पास. So it really started from there at food court. And करते I met lots of people. I met lots of people who thought that इसके तो 50 लाख हम रख लेंगे, but I was smarter than that. I was also being able to see through. I was like, कहानी सुनाओ ना मुझे, कहानी क्या है? तो मुझे भी पता चले कि अच्छी है नहीं है, you know, just. And then I met Subhash Kapoor, who then went on to make Geordie LLB and many other successful films and shows, Maharani. His first film, he's also from Delhi, came from journalist background, and his first film, and he also had access to similar kind of money, was looking for the other half. And I really liked the story, and it was children cricket film, classic, you know, Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar structure, rich school, poor school, and the last ball, and the crescendo builds up, and the music comes, and what will happen, and lots of suspense in the last ball, how the underdog wins, classic underdog story. So that film was called Say Salam India, and and we were making this in 2006, and we were thinking we are very, very intelligent because 2007 mein India World Cup mein ja raha hai, and we will have our film ready during that time, so we will be able to, you know,
Ride on that
and be able to market a lot. And we did. We got Reebok, we got many other people looking for cricket content to market. So we finished our film in time. March was the cricket. यहाँ पर उनको नई जर्सी मिल रही है, सहारा से लैंड मिल रहा है, पूरा क्रिकेट टीम जा रहा है, और वहाँ पर मेरी एक 1.5 करोड़ की फिल्म. Then we went on to raise 25 more, so it was 75 each. Just to be thorough in math. And we were very excited that the film is coming out during the cricket season. And in those AC rooms, when you're discussing marketing, it was just like, 2000 crore लग गए इंडिया पर. इंडिया तो आगे जाएगा उससे 4 साल पहले इंडिया was 5 साल पहले इंडिया was in
Suneri Lal ki, what is that?
Yeah,
Mungeri
Haseen-
Lal ki
yeah, Haseen
Suneri
Sab-
Sakti.
So India was in finals with Australia, and it was a good team. There was all this. Samsung had come with TVs like this. Pepsi had come with Pepsi Gold, and there was all this flurry of this was the first time Setmax had taken very expensive rights, and TV screens had shrunk to 75% because 25% was running as ads because cricket. तो उसके अंदर हम अपनी फिल्म रिलीज कर रहे थे, and it was 3.
This is getting too cliffhanger. You have to give the end
And
now.
it was 3 matches के बाद India will get into the next round. So the first match India lost. उनके पुतले जलने लग गए यहाँ पर, and यहाँ पर सब काफी heartbreak हुआ. Then the second match India went out and made the highest runs ever in single one day, and then the third match was the day of our release. Of course India will go on the final, and यहाँ पर लोग बाल दे रहे हैं तिरुपति में और वो सब चल रहा है. उसके अंदर मेरा एक फिल्म रिलीज हो रहा है, and and India lost the match. फिर से पुतले जलने लग गए, फिर देश नहीं आएंगे. वो सब चलने लग गया, and in middle of that the theater guys called us and said
We don't want your film.
कि कुछ भी पुराना पिक्चर दे दो, वो दे दो, नमस्ते लंदन और भेजा फ्राई, बट ये लेके जाओ. So films re-released, but cricket अगर दिया तो हमारा theater जल जाएगा. So we can't talk about cricket. And we were just like, and there was Milind Suman in the film. So the first person I ever wrote a first check to as a producer was Milind Suman. That's why I was telling you that story. So
you lost all that money.
All the money.
film never got released.
no,
so
the film got released.
Right,
All the dabbas were, all the reels were at, it got released, but nobody came to see it. And then the theater guys, were like, "ये ले जाओ वरना हम बर्बाद हो जाएंगे." So the films were technically sent back after the release. So I had then picked up a job at Gajni in Bombay, and it was very cool to work with Amir and as the head of production, be as a 23-year-old in and out of, 21, 22 years old, be in and out of Gajni, and that I was running the production. I was always very good at running the production. I just chose to be my own producer and raise the money, do the entrepreneurial hustle. But अगर मुझे नौकरी करनी होती तो मैं कभी भी कर सकती थी. So I then picked up that job to sustain, and I was excited to work on a big Hindi film. And then I went up to my bosses at Gajni and to the producers, and I said, I can't do it, I need to leave. They were like, why? I said, I've made a film, it's bombed for no fault of mine. I've taken 50 lakhs from my neighbor, and if I don't return it, then I can't be a producer. 75. So they said, but how will you return? I said, I'll figure it out, I need to go to Delhi. So I came to Delhi, I went to my school in Bluebells, which is opposite LSR. And I said, आप बचपन में 50 रुपए हमसे लेकर हमें single screens में show दिखाने लेके जाते थे. So can you just collect 50 rupees from 2,000 kids? So my principal was like, sure, Mrs. Suman Kumar. And मेरे घर के पीछे सपना सिनेमा था. I went to Sapna Cinema. I said, सुबह 9 से 12 के morning 9 to 12 show, how much money do you make? They said, 5,000. I said, I'll give you 10. Will you give me the theater? So basically 1,000 seater, 50 rupees per kid, 50,000 show, 10,000 for the theater guy, 40,000 for me. And the kids came in and they had a fantastic reaction to the film. It was beautiful, it was electrifying, it was amazing, it was great film, good production. And then I went back to my principal and I said, can you write me a letter of appreciation? And then I straight took it to DPS RK Puram, which had 25,000 kids. And then I did the same deal with Sangam Cinema. And then 20 shows I did there, okay? Then all the DPS of Delhi got green light. And then I went straight because मैं जहाँ से अपना canopy उठाती थी.
Hansal Mehta's next series on scams has to be on you.
Yeah, I'm जुगाड़ 101. Not so much scam, but जुगाड़.
Yeah, जुगाड़.
इतना hard से यहाँ मैं जहाँ से canopy अपनी उठाती थी because I used to put canopy for laughing cow cheese and sell it on streets and Alaknanda और सब जगह मैं stall लगा के खड़ी हो जाती थी. Please try laughing cow cheese, 400 rupees per hour I used to get. So sales girl. So जहाँ से मैं canopy उठाती थी, that used to be Nehru Place, Lintas का office. I straight went up to them. I said, I want to meet your head. To the receptionist, and they said, I said I used to work here, freelance, but I used to work here. So somehow I met the head of marketing, and then I said, I have 1,000 kids. I have already done 30 shows. I will do 300 more shows. I will give you the interval. So I sold my interval for 20,000. And they had, I said 15 minutes of interval. I then went and picked up all the audio cassettes, 10,000 audio cassettes, the audio CDs bani thi from a vendor in Punjab. And he said, हमारा तो नुकसान हो गया, कोई picture नहीं देख रहा. And I said, आपकी cost कितने की है? मतलब आप थोड़ा पैसा कमा लो, आप कहते 10 रुपए. So I said, ठीक है, सारी 10,000 audio CDs दे दो. I stood in front of the theaters when kids used to come out, 25 rupees per CD. Even the market price was 75, उसके पीछे लिखा हुआ था. And 25 rupees, I sold all the 10,000 of them. So I did 370 shows. Made all the money back. Took 9 months of my life and I became a producer. That's how.
That's an amazing story, really. And so you paid him back, and so
Yeah, fully.
super. So Guneet, we'll come to how you now, the film is just, Kiran Rao's film, just Lapata Ladies, got picked as the India entry into the Oscars. And you were saying that this is just the wrong approach, So now coming from the background, all the sort of hard wires of production and how to make something succeed. What is your understanding? Like, how did you take two films, very unusual subjects, small projects, and put them onto the global stage? And why were you saying Lapata Ladies is, even if it's a good film, bad film, but possibly the wrong choice because it doesn't have the correct structures around it? So give us now some...
I don't think I ever said that.
It could be an apocryphal story from the internet, that you're saying that it needs an American distributor.
I actually love Lapata Ladies. It's one of the best films of this year. Yeah, it's one of the best films this year. But one has to just understand that Oscars is also an American TV show, So it is an award show run in US. I'm also very petrified of all the cameras here. Please don't, I'd like to talk freely, but itne sare mobiles on ho jate hain. Mat karo record, sun lo. So everything just gets blown out of...
But I do have to tell you that this session is being recorded, so
I know, but
please speak freely.
Things get blown out of proportion, I feel always. So, but what I mean to say is that, when you are like the recent Period End of Sentence or Elephant Whisperers, of course, very good, important films, beautifully, if I say so myself, well made. But they also had Netflix as a distributor in US. So having a US distributor goes a very long way in terms of a campaign. It's been running for 95 years, and it's a campaign to be run in US. And it's important and significant to have a US distributor. But that doesn't mean the choice of the film is wrong. I have actually not seen All We Imagine Is Light. In the final selection, I have to say that that finally when countries submit in the foreign language category, I was very heartbroken because Lunchbox had a US distribution in Sony Picture Classic and was not selected from India. It was a very beautiful film to be able to travel and to be able to be shown. And similarly, Lapata Ladies is a very, very beautiful film. People will love watching it. People will love seeing it. Having American distribution helps you do an even epic campaign and a sustained year-long, thing, that a grooming of the market happens year-long. If supposing this whole thing was supposed to be done in India, if the whole world was competing for a film fair, just for conversation purpose, and you had Korean, Iranian, Italian, New Zealand, Australian, Chinese, European, France, German, every film coming here, best film of those countries coming here, but maybe the Iranian film was distributed by American Productions, or maybe, there was a French film distributed by a Viacom or a Geo or a Dharma Productions, or, so you would just, those titles would be buzzy. You would know but if you're here and you're coming as a foreigner here, and in 2 months you want to get to all the journalists who matter, you want to get to all the niches that matter, and to all the voters, it is a lot of work. So it has been years of, that understanding that a partnership with a US distributor goes a long way. In fact, RRR had re-released and they brought in distribution just so that it can get into theaters, it can get the marketing of the theaters. So it's how do you stand out between 70, 80 other countries and other films? So it's, so one, what is the film? I think as a film, Lapata Ladies is beautiful. It has, and Amir Khan Productions has actually gone there with Lagan, been nominated, pretty much the only one that is nominated, right? I've never even entered that category because it's so, but now there is this way of, that there are two films that even the Academy puts over and above the country puts. So I'm hoping both the films go in, but running a campaign is a work that you need your partners to do. You need people who know that to do it. Of course, you'll hire a PR. So I've just been saying that at every stage and everywhere, that it goes a long way. So it almost is, for any film having that ambition, should think of having a distributor early on and how that works. That actually does not, it's a very long cut down thing, but I feel like each of us from India goes there and runs a campaign, and I feel like there should be a collective database so that each of us is not starting from day one. So, whatever Gully Boy did or whatever Jallikattu did or whatever Visarni did, or should all be documented, or Cello show did, which was Pan Anil's film, which got into the shortlist last year, which was amazing, got into top 15, and then from top 15 you go to top 5, and then winning, to matlab, is...
So it literally becomes a sort of collective action to break into that.
I hope so. I hope, because, as a country, it's a big award. It's, we'd like to be there more often and win more often. We love it, we celebrate
like Parasite winning literally put Korean cinema
But it was also, you have to see the participation of the distributor there. I think, I mean, again, it was A24 or it was Neon. It was a distributor there. So it's been years of, films being discovered at the festival, and then a Sony Picture Classic or a Neon or an A24 or, Lionsgate would come pick it up and then start marketing it and building a campaign. There is years of that has happened in the foreign language category.
So, Guneet, we could talk for hours, but I have so many questions to ask you. Your own production house, was named by your mother, and again, I'm going by things which are on the internet, but it's a name she suggested. She had cancer, and she was already, sort of, she was very ill and in hospital
unwell,
when she named it. But like I said, so Karan Johar is your friend, Ekta is your friend, Anurag Kashyap is your friend, you've collaborated with all of them. But you've walked a very distinct path for yourself, and like you could have access to money, you're a 2-time Oscar winner now, but you're still doing a very distinctive body of work. So tell us about the vision that's driving your production company.
So my company is called Sikhya Entertainment. It means keep learning and keep growing. My mom named it Seek Se Sikhya Bana. And at that point of time, I thought it's very Punjabi as a name, and then I've grown to love it and grown to take it as a blessing.
Can you all hear her at the back? Yeah. Okay.
So, of course, Sikhya is it means to keep learning and keep growing. My mom named it, and and now Achin Jain and I, we are 2 partners who run it. Over the years, it's been 17 years in the business, and I produced Say Salam India and Das Vidanya on my own. And then when I went on to work on Once Upon a Time, after my parents passed, I went on to take up a job at Once Upon a Time in Mumbai for Balaji. I was the supervising producer on the film, like the head of production. And somewhere there I met Anurag Kashyap, who then asked me to work for him and work with him. And I then worked for 6 years and ran Anurag Kashyap Films. And then came back to Sikhya, and then, did
so I'll come back to asking you about the vision.
Yeah.
But, again, Anurag Kashyap was a very fundamental relationship, a professional relationship in your life, and that, you learned a lot. And when you first spoke about the idea of home and the fact that you lost your home and then you lost your parents, there was a lot of grief. And again, this could be wrong. I'm obviously quoting just little shards of things we've read elsewhere, that when you parted ways with Anurag, that you felt you'd lost another home, So can you talk about that, and, why was there that sense, and have you now found a sense of home,
Yeah, so yes, there's always been a sense of abandonment and starting from scratch, be it when I was 12 years old or when I lost my parents at 23. It was always like starting from absolute zero or even below. And then, yes, there was a lot of identity being a producer and running Anurag Kashyap Films. And it was his decision to move on. But for me, it was also, you know, working with somebody who's just, who loves cinema, and it was like going to film school. So it was, it was a home, and it is something that I always cherish, and I'm very grateful for the 6 years, for the knowledge I learned, everything there. And at that point of time, there was a lot of grief to process, which I didn't. Over the years, I just think I delayed all the grief to work and work at 20 films and at a time and produce, just take on more and more responsibility, and that was my way of handling grief. But that moment when I had to figure out and get back to Sikha, it was not easy. It took me 2-3 years to get up and running again. But literally, more power to my two partners at that point of time, which was two people who worked with me, Shan and Achin, and hope in their eyes, and everybody else around me was like, we'll figure it out, we'll do it. No, we didn't know how to, but one step at a time. I mean, we did a lot of films, but running a company is a whole beast in its own, because you have so many team members, you have such a huge process. Yes, and that led me to figure out therapy, a lot of healing, and therapy actually really helped me articulate and be grateful for everything that I've had, than to, you know, lean into something that got, something that maybe was not my plan at that point of time. And as of today, I look back and I'm very grateful for those, for the years, and even for the vision that I was ready to fly on my own.
Yeah, no, I mean, so many, you know, it's literally roller coasters, and each time you've picked yourself up. And
Yeah,
so that question I asked you, that do you now have a sense of home? Have you stopped looking for a home? You know, do you find, are you your own home?
I actually have sense of home only now after my marriage. I married last year, a year and a half, and I actually love being called Guneet Monga Kapoor, and Guneet Monga feels incomplete to me. So for me, sense of home is now with family, and is Delhi, is my husband who's here, and who I forgot to thank at the Oscar speech, so thank you.
You forgot to thank him at the Oscar speech.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, Rahul Bose is so old world. There's a whole new ideal man right here, you know.
yeah, who was
Yeah.
there for like a month and a half, and all the 100 sari looks with elephants that I had was all because of him. You know, he was the one putting them together. You know, with what? There's no other team member or staff. You know, like I was wearing saris and going asking for votes with elephants. I was wearing elephant accessories and everything. And I used to get into screenings and hustle and be like, yeah, the Indian who made the elephant movie. You know, so I was method dressing.
Method dressing.
Yeah, fully, whatever it takes. So, you know, just constantly being, I was wearing elephants even on that day. Those little things. So, but yes, sense of home now is, and abhi bhi Karam Bhumi or Dharam Bhumi mein jang chal rahi hai, because love is now in Delhi and work is in Bombay, and I'm still figuring out, but I want to be more at home, because for me, my treasure is that I found parents, and after 17 years now, or 16 years of losing, I'm now 40, 16, 17 years, I've found parents, and I'm just obsessed with that. So definitely I found a home, and in all logic sense, but also a lot of love and a lot of stability like that, and that has given me a lot of joy. So I got married on 12th of December, and I won an Oscar on 12th of March.
Oh, wow.
So 3 months, speed. So I used to joke with him कि हो गया मेरा, मतलब 2 ही सपने थे, शादी करनी थी life में. You know, I feel like, you know, I mean, I really wanted to get married. So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So just, you know, we're going to run out of time. I was asking you about the vision. So now, Guneet, you want to start a platform for women in cinema.
Yeah.
Just being a woman producer, and like I said, a very distinctive producer, what do you bring to the set? Like, you know, I asked Rahul to kind of assess himself, that what's distinctive about him. So when you think of yourself as a producer, what are you bringing to the job that, say, your peers are not bringing, you know?
Yeah, I think exposure. You know, exposure defines us on who we are. So because I was able to travel so much, I've had films that have been selected in so many festivals, you know. I think several films went to Cannes, 19 films have gone to, 9 films went to Cannes, 19 at Toronto. Sundance, Venice, many films that have broken out. So I've had an exposure. I've traveled the world. I've taken Indian stories forward. I've built partnership. I've opened those doors. So it's a very unique perspective I have and a response I have to stories, because I look at something and I was like, how can I add value? And if I can add value, where can I take it? What is the best in the world that does this? So only then, I feel like I can come and do justice to this. And even Kill, for a matter of fact, we sold it to Lionsgate in US from Toronto. We took it to Toronto. It broke out. We sold
Just
the
to
whole
share with
world.
you that Lionsgate is what produced John Wick. So, it's really...
It's their first foreign language film ever as an acquisition. So, and we sold the whole world, just like what we did with Lunchbox. So, all these are new, uncharted territories to go into, looking at the business, innovating distribution, because I feel like ideas are free and the magic lies in impact, and the magic lies in the execution and the impact lies in distribution. So distribution is always controlled by the studios, by the big, because that is what gets you the bucks. That's the first. So to innovate distribution, to be able to tell our stories, to be able to take our skin, our language, our color to a larger non-diaspora audiences, and to be able to be in that business. So my dream is now to make a Brown Panther, our own superhero, or a Crazy Rich Indians, because we are that, right? So we're also that. Our weddings are epic. So, and the wedding industry. So, seeing bigger dreams, and of course, multiple Oscars for foreign language and otherwise, why not? Yeah.
That's a wonderful, hopeful note to end on,
Thank
Guneet.
you.
And thank you so much for sharing this
Thank
story. It's
you.
been amazing, really
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you for having me.
The bar is open and conversations continue. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. And Guneet, thank you. We'll see you again in November.